Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Bombastic Few. It's your favorite host, Mikkel, once again. And if you don't recognize me, no, you are not in the wrong place. But our favorite or second favorite host, I don't know if you guys ever figured that one out, Lindsay is not here today. So I'm a sub. But our other hosts include Brent and Daniel. I don't know if you guys, have a funny quirk to say about yourselves.
No, we normally just say something entirely useless and utterly replaceable, like, what up? It's Brent.
Exhibit A.
Yeah.
It's Daniel, by the way.
All right. Well, we'll talk about some of your favorite things like, I don't know, quotes, qualgorithms, hypotheticals, because what's a podcast without a hypothetical? And D&D alignment charts. But first off, I want to start with our bombastic word of the day, gargulesthesia, which is the sensation commonly associated with tickling. Personally...
And how do you spell gargulesthesia?
You want me to spell it?
Yeah.
Can I get country of origin?
Gargulesthesia.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Daniel, stop giving me gargulesthesia. Brent is right here.
Part of
That's
speech?
so weird. I actually had it pulled up, but I don't know. I guess adjective? I don't know. It's a word.
Can I get the first letter?
Still G.
This is how I run my spelling bees. Anyway, all right. So I was thinking about this the other day so I sent a text to two separate friends, two separate messages, and they both responded like the exact same text. And so I was thinking, like, what text could you send to as many people as you could to get like the exact same response? So, like, for example, the text I sent out to like two different people was, do you want to go to this store? And they both replied, sure, like same capitalization and everything. So like, it's just like one word, sure. Shut up, Daniel. But so what?
That's deep.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's crazy that they responded the exact same thing like that.
Well, but I thought it was
I
interesting.
personally would have responded no.
Yeah. So what text could you send to get let's say you get $100 per, so here's the condition. So you send it to someone, whatever they respond is like what the next person has to respond. Every person additional you send the text to and they send the correct response, you get $100. But if they send the incorrect response, then it's all gone. You lose all the money. So what's your text?
Seems like there's just stakes now.
Yeah, there is. Exactly. So, because like your initial thought, or at least my initial thought would be something like reply to this text with yes. But I could totally see, like, if I were to send that to Daniel, he would reply anything but yes.
Oh, the easy answer to that is no.
Well, yeah, so maybe you have like that be the text and then no is your response, and you just send it to a selective group of people.
Interesting.
But so it has to be like, I think it has to be enough of a genuine question that like people don't try and make a joke response, but like what question can you ask that everyone knows the answer to? There's no like, it's like a one word or like a very simple response.
How about
that you aren't going to get variation?
just want to grab lunch? I feel like most people will say yes or sure.
But sure where? Yes.
Yeah.
No. Well,
My question would be when. Like there are a lot of like inquisitive words that would follow.
well, I feel like people. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you could.
I would not just say yes.
I can't think of
and then
anything where
just
you
send it
couldn't
out.
dig an elaborate tunnel. To be honest, I'm sure the third
Well,
person
you
would have sent that text to would not have said sure.
How about, do you want to build an elaborate tunnel? I think you'd get no, like pretty consistently.
How about, do you want to build a snowman?
Oh, that would be perfect. If it was a movie quote, like complete the movie quote, that's a good idea. What do you think the most universally known movie quote is?
Hey, is your refrigerator running?
May the force be with you.
Well, but like, what's the response?
You better.
It has
catch
to be like a call and response. May the force be with you, and you better catch it.
How about what's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
I
the
don't
natural
remember the
response.
exact response.
Really? Is it African or
is it
European?
Yeah, but okay, I guess I would have remembered.
That's also just obscure enough that like you'd have to really pick out who you're sending that to.
Well, sure.
I what's the like?
I guess someone sarcastically probably would just reply with a number. To be honest with you.
Okay.
What's the precursor to you can't handle the truth? What's said right before you can't handle the truth? Like, I want the truth or something? Or like...
Probably like, tell me the truth.
Honestly, never seen it.
So
but I
think
you
the
can't handle
best
the
bet is to say, hey, all my contacts like got deleted, and I think I remember this being this person's number. Was I right? And you just send it to a bunch of numbers you don't know.
That's good. Can we qualify that like? I mean, if you're asking for a like letter for letter response, you have quite the uphill battle. If you're trying to get like a general idea across, then it changes the circumstance.
What if it was like who played Spider-Man in like the original Spider-Man movie or something?
The like second within 3 responses, you're gonna get a D's nuts back.
All right. Yeah.
Ask someone if they have ligma.
Who's Steve
Right.
Jobs?
Exactly. Anyways, yeah, I already told you bozos that you should be impressed I'm here considering the severe jet lag that I have. For those of you,
Why do you have jet lag?
What'd you say?
Why do you have jet lag?
Oh, thanks for asking, Brent. I was about to get there. I have jet lag because I was just in Jordan, which is 8 time zones away, which honestly did not. So first off, this was the first time I traveled across one of the oceans. So I've been north and south, but never east and west far enough for it to matter. But on the way there, it really didn't bother me because it's like, yeah, you're going to fall asleep that night and you're going to be fine. But on the way back, I am flabbergasted because my 11.5-hour flight, we took off at 11 a.m. on Sunday and landed on Sunday at 3:30 p.m. So you have like a 30-something hour day to live, and then it's just not working. You're just constantly tired. But all that to say, I did get to go to Petra, so I did find the Holy Grail. I'm not dead. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Was oh, I almost said Henry Ford. That's not it.
Harrison.
Harrison Ford. Was he there?
Yeah, I shot him for the Holy Grail, but
Oh wow.
yeah, it's true. But honestly, I think so. 2 highlights. First off, at Petra, there's this thing called the 1,000 Stairs. I don't know if it's literally 1,000, but it's 1,000 carved up steps, and the staircase is at its smallest probably about 4 feet wide, and you can ride donkeys up it. And these donkeys just yeet themselves up there. I mean, I sat on the donkey. The guy said, and it just bucked it. And to be honest, I thought my donkey was just losing its crap. And I was like, how do I stop this donkey? To someone who barely speaks Arabic, who's chasing me from behind. And there's like no communication. Finally, someone saw me struggling on the side and said, pull it back and say, shh. So I did. And then the guy behind me catches up. He says, why you stop? And like slaps the donkey. And my donkey keeps booking it. And I thought that like my donkey wasn't supposed to be running, but it just freaking goes. And then you end up and you're like on the side of a cliff where you're like, if my donkey aims the wrong direction for half a second, I'm a dead man. Or at best case scenario, my leg is crushed between the donkey and the rest of me survives on top of the donkey. But needless to say, it was quite the experience. And my donkey, actually, you could tell, probably had just had babies. And to be quite honest, I felt really bad for it because it was kind of fever dreaming the whole way up. And there was a couple times where it was definitely heading off the side of the stairs instead of going up. So just be warned if you ride a donkey.
You didn't want to hoof it up yourself?
No, I mean, so the funny thing is we actually, my father and mother-in-law, I was warned that the donkey was going to be going up these steps. We did not warn them, so they had no idea that they were going up steps with a donkey on the edge of a cliff, or else they would not have done it. But the other thing is I got to experience the Dead Sea, so that was pretty interesting because, so like they always say swimming in the Dead Sea, quote unquote, but they literally tell you not to swim. And because the thing is, if you get it like in your eyes, mouth, nose, ears, whatever, they like, you have to be pulled down, like hosed down, because there's just so much salt, which I did not know about. But you're just literally floating there. And I mean, it's incredible to the point where if you actually try to float like straight up and down, you know, like if like you're standing, your feet are getting like pushed out from under you because the water's just trying to push you up. But yeah, I didn't bring a newspaper, so I couldn't get the classic pic, but it was interesting.
On.
And it was very cold.
Yeah.
Rookie mistake.
I wasn't
we have
going to
no
mention
proof.
this. Yeah, I wasn't going to mention this, but you guys would appreciate that I went to Wadi Rum Desert, which is where they film like every desert scene in Star Wars, Transformers 2, Aladdin, Lawrence of Arabia, The Martian, Dune. Like anytime there's Mars or a desert planet in a movie or just a desert, it's at Wadi Rum. So that was pretty interesting because you're going around and you're like, yeah, I've like seen that in a movie.
I've seen that sand dune
Yeah,
before. I remember that sand dune. Was like the Star Wars like giant like carcasses or like skeletal structures everywhere? They
yeah,
just leave
there's
those
like
there.
the droid carriers everywhere. And
Yeah.
At one
You
point,
run
I
into
almost
any
got ran over
Jawas?
by a racing pod, and
Sand people.
yeah,
They a big problem there.
yep, just shooting lasers at you. It's pretty dramatic. But
That
and I
traveling like over. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was just it's very off, or it's back to like what you said at the very beginning, but like traveling overseas, like over Pacific or Atlantic Ocean is crazy. Because like when I went to Taiwan, I had like the same like deal where like it was like a 30-hour day, and it was like, dear goodness, will it ever end? Like I swear I've experienced 7 days within this singular like quote unquote day.
You're like, I just watched 4 movies on the plane, but
Yeah,
only
yeah.
2 hours have passed.
And it's like I don't know if we like swap directions or something, but like I swear I went to bed for 5 hours. There's still 19 hours left of this flight.
Yeah. We did get to ride on one of the new like 787 Boeing Dreamliners, which is pretty cool because they're like, I don't know if you guys know anything about them, but they're just like such new planes. Like the windows have dimmers, they don't have like panels that slide up and down, so it's like I don't know, there's just like crazy new technology in it that's pretty wild. But yeah, anyways, it's good stuff. I also didn't expect the like travel path. You know, you don't go like straight.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
we went
yeah.
from Chicago over Quebec to Greenland, like down through the UK and Greece, and then made it to Jordan. And you're like, this is very strange.
Yeah, it's like I thought I understood how maps work.
I-
I clearly do not.
Yeah.
I guess that's like, is that just to stay as close as you can to land in case of emergency?
No, it's actually the straightest path. It's actually the direct line from point A to point B.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Like the longitudinal line like goes over. Is that the right one? Yeah,
Well,
latitude's the vertical one, right?
Not either, because you're going across
longitude
both, but like on a
goes
globe.
vertical.
Yeah, but like on a globe, like obviously on a map it doesn't make sense, but on a globe, the shortest point, if you were to like have like a fabric tape measure essentially from point A to point B, would be that way, rather than going wide.
For going to Taiwan, it's like over Alaska is the straightest line from Dallas Fort Worth.
Oh yeah,
Which
interesting.
But like I think there is also like, even if it does, like I think they do prefer to fly over land, and I'm entirely making this up, but I do feel like I read this somewhere. but yeah, planes are weird. I don't understand it. If the Earth's flat, how the heck does that work? Question science still can't answer.
I guess that probably also has something to do with like how the Earth's rotating, like it affects your travel.
Well, yeah, I do
paths,
think it's like the plane goes into the air and you just wait for the Earth to rotate beneath you, and so that you can then come back down where you want to be.
Yeah.
If that's the case,
it's the illusion of flying.
If
forward,
that's
you're
the
just
case,
hovering.
I feel like you'd be better off flying, just hovering and letting the Earth rotate to you, rather than chasing the sun, like my dumb pilot did. Gosh.
If you can get enough of a vertical, you can actually accomplish the same thing as a plane. So you just jump straight up and wait in the air long enough. It's the same as a plane.
That's how I dunk from the 3-point line. Actually, is I start behind.
You wait for the basketball hoop to come to you. Makes sense. I like it.
So, one of my roommates is getting married in a couple months, and so him and his fiance were doing, a marriage counseling thing, and so, his little pamphlet or whatever, the book for marriage counseling, came in the mail, and we flipped it open to a random page. This was a few months ago, but it was like, and the first thing we saw was like a question for them to ask. The prompt was, do you still feel sexy after arguing? And, for the longest time, I was like, what a strange question to ask. Like, why does that, come up? But then today, before the podcast, I was like, you know what, I'm going to bring this up. And then I realized, I was like, that's a fair question. Because if the answer to that is no, then there's probably some underlying issues.
I feel like what you figure out, I guess I'm out of the three of us, I'm the only one that's gone through marriage counseling. But what you figure out is,
as far as you know,
that's true. We forgot about Brent's mysterious fiance that disappeared that one day.
May she rest in peace.
Yeah. Along with his license plate.
she up and packed her bags and took the license plate with her.
Lost the wife, the kids, the license plate.
But what's interesting is I'm in the same boat as you, Daniel, where it's like I never would think that. Essentially, it wouldn't even cross my mind. I don't know that I ever think about my own sexiness, to be quite honest with you. I just am, But
it's a given.
Yeah, exactly. But you guys know that. You've seen me.
Makes sense.
On the other hand, you see you just interact with your spouse, or even just going through it, or just talking with other people, you start to understand wow, there's just so much that would have never crossed my mind. But I mean, in the end, I guess that's what makes us all different. But yeah, it is pretty interesting, because you're right that something like that obviously is very significant to the relationship if it's an issue. But it's not something that's really ever going to get brought up. Oh, Daniel, you just make me feel so ugly when we argue. Gosh.
You gotta save some things for the relationship advice with Mikkel segment later on.
Yeah.
Can't use up all your stuff right now.
Pillow talk with Mikkel.
Yeah, catch us in the Valentine's
episode.
Wait, isn't it are you guys familiar with, I think
April
it's called
Fools?
White Day?
Yes, because I am a connoisseur of the Japanese culture.
Did you just say White Day?
Yeah, so yeah, so in Japan, this is my best understanding on it based on one of my friends' experiences, where he was approached by a Japanese student at our school. And so I think that the way I'm remembering it is, and apologize if I'm wrong because it's been a few years
I will
since
be
this was
correcting
explained to
you
me.
if you are.
But like on Valentine's Day, if a girl's interested in someone, she'll like approach and like give them like sweets or chocolates or something, and then like what, so it's basically the approach, and then later on White Day, if the recipient wants to reciprocate feelings, then they give back some kind of gift, and the kind of gift they give back like tells like where they want to stand as far as relationship.
Interesting.
There's also obligatory chocolates, which like, so everything I know is from anime and internet articles. No like actual real world knowledge, but the like specifically, so like obligatory chocolates is just like you give them to your classmates just cuz like they're your classmates type thing, and there are like tiers of chocolate that you'll give, and so like if it's like store bought, then that's like like I had to do it type thing, but then like homemade chocolate is like considered the like I'm romantically interested in you type thing. But I didn't know about the like returning gift of White Day being equivalent of like responding to feelings. I think it's in like, is it April or March when it's in?
I think it's like around this time is when White Day is.
So you're just waiting for 2 months to.
Well, yeah, that's
oh,
what I
man.
was thinking.
Did she like that date? We've
So,
been on 5
that's what
dates
I
since,
thought.
but we haven't been allowed to talk about it.
It does seem,
you're legally
like,
not allowed
when,
to.
when you think about it logically, I mean, you could poke all sorts of holes in it, but who knows?
But it's
Maybe
so
I'm totally wrong.
romantic.
Brent,
I also
Brent's the weeb here.
I refuse to accept that term.
Is
But
that a Japanese thing? Is that what you guys were saying?
I think so.
I think so.
Like
Interesting.
I've never heard of it other places, but like because I remember like reading about White Day, and I don't think it's exclusive to Japan, but like I know it's like very big there. But I just find it interesting how like specifically it's set up that the girl has to like do something first, and then the guy gets to respond.
I'm just glad White Day isn't what I originally presumed it would be.
Pray tell, what did you think White Day was?
I had no tangible guesses, but I just saw it going wrong in multiple ways.
Interesting.
Yeah. Dude, you know what really went wrong recently? I'm sure everyone's heard of this by now. When the episode drops, it'll have been about a week. Will Smith had a big news day. And the big news story wasn't him winning his first Oscar, although that was true. It was him slapping Chris Rock in the face on live international television, which we don't need to like get into what we think about it, but you know, people like had very strong opinions about this. From Will Smith was like totally justified, I don't know why people are mad, to like people being like, by letting this happen, we're promoting casual violence on national TV, yada yada. Yeah. I saw one person say Will Smith could have killed him. And I'm like, well, he slapped him in the face. let's settle down a little bit.
I don't know. Have you seen
like
Hancock, right? he like literally throws a car in the, or he stops a train, just by like standing there.
And we all know that movie didn't use special effects.
Exactly.
So
That's what was so
Will Smith has
significant about it.
superpowers.
Actually, so fun fact, I read this today. The first Academy Award, I think it was like the 20s or something like that. But the first Academy Award was handed to, for lead actor or lead role, it was handed to someone, and it was a silent film. But they actually got the second most votes. The first highest votes was actually to the famous actor dog, Rin Tin Tin, which you guys may have heard of. He got the most votes, and the Academy was so embarrassed that they essentially just didn't let him have the award. But the first award should have gone to a dog.
Interesting.
This is why the Oscars are a sham. It's a great tradition
Yeah.
passed down since the very first award ceremony.
That's kind of what I thought. I was like, yeah, you've always known that, like, that and the Grammys, like, you've always known it's a sham, but I didn't know it started with poor intentions.
This one goes all the way to the top.
It was actually originally
Yeah.
designed exclusively for animals, and then just like humans stole the show because they like stealing things.
Classic,
exactly.
classic human bit,
Yeah.
stealing things.
Stealing things that aren't theirs.
That's why the chimp from Space Chimps didn't win lead actor in
The-
2008 or
The
whatever.
animated Space Chimps movie. I hate
You know who deserves an actor, an Oscar, as the main ape from Planet of the Apes.
Oh, Caesar.
Yeah.
Like the guy who did Golem.
No, the gorilla. It wasn't a person, Brent. Silly.
Cool. I hate Space Chimps because I lost that DVD from the library and I had to pay the library $30 for Space Chimps, and Space Chimps is not worth $30 on DVD. Like,
Wait,
what was the library thinking?
Why? If they overcharged you, why didn't you just find a different copy of Space Chimps and say like?
That is
buy
a
that and give it to
magnificent
them?
point.
I was young enough to not know. Like, as far as I was concerned, I was going to jail because I had lost the Space Chimps, and so when they told me I could pay $30 to not go to jail, I was exuberant.
They used the word collection, and it was all downhill from there.
Dude, kids, if you bring up the idea of like bad or illegal or jail to them, like they believe it in an
Yeah.
instant.
You know,
crazy.
or the
I-
irrational fear that I think every
Go
kid has
ahead.
had from the 80s, which is that quicksand is just going to suck you in at any moment.
I don't know why you think it's irrational. It's
I guess
very
70s.
irrational. You can buy quicksand insurance from me. That's my side business.
Is that today's
the podcast knows
advertising
about.
sponsor or quicksand insurance?
No. I'm pretty sure I sponsored the episode. It was Quicksand the Musical, I'm pretty sure is the name of the episode, if you're
That's
curious. Certainly seems like it would be the episode. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't.
Quicksand comes up a lot, you know.
Honestly-
it could have been any of them.
Checks out.
And I also don't know why you said kids from the 80s. It's not only a rational fear, but it is a rational fear that everyone
No,
should
I meant
have
like
now.
from the 80s to
Everyone-
now. Yeah, like honestly, like 70s,
It
like
began
Star
in the
Wars,
80s.
Indiana
People
Jones
found out
era,
Quicksand was discovered in
Back
the
to the
80s.
Future, 80s.
Everyone this is a PSA, everyone take a second from listening, look around you, make sure there's no quicksand in your immediate vicinity.
I don't know. I'd be surprised if there isn't some kind of like Abbott and Costello-esque sketch about quicksand.
I think it's in Romeo and Juliet, right? Where Juliet starts going down quicksand, so Romeo throws himself into quicksand. Is that?
Yeah, and then they both die in the
And
quicksand.
then Juliet
yeah, that's how that
climbs
went.
out with a branch.
Spoiler alerts, jeez, come on. All right. We'll have to go back and post and add a jump to point.
Just censor that point.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of famous love stories, Princess Bride is still the greatest movie ever made.
I don't think I've ever heard an argument for that.
For or against that?
Dude, with your hair right now, you kind of look like the big wrestler, dude.
Oh,
Andre the Giant.
Actually, my grandpa
Yeah, I guess.
sat next to Andre the Giant on a flight once. Fun fact.
Huh.
I
I thought you were
I
going to say
assume he
your
took up
grandpa
more
was
than one
Andre the
seat.
Giant.
Yes, in a former life.
But the genes got diluted by the time they got to you.
Yeah.
Wait.
What are you talking about?
So, wait, this made me think. It's like you said that, I was like, I said this out loud, so obviously I said it. But like, Andre the Giant probably took up more than one seat because he was just a very massive person.
Yeah, I don't know.
A giant. They called him giant for a reason. Like how? Like, I'm trying to picture an airplane seat. It's been a while since.
Well,
I've flown.
airplane seats,
I'm like,
too.
How big do you have to be to like get 2 seats? And has anyone ever warranted 3 seats?
I
in a
mean,
row
now-
on a plane.
Well, it's by weight,
I would
isn't it?
imagine someone like that would get a first class seat, but I don't know that it's by weight. I was going to say that I
Well,
I
but,
think
like,
seats
they
have
can-
gotten smaller over the years to try to fit more people into the same size planes. I could be wrong about that, but
Certainly seems like something that would happen.
Does that follow? What is the trend of like space you have on an airplane compared to like size of the average person? I'd be curious to see those lined up together on a graph.
there needs to be a few more variables in there.
Like how big is like I guess like average weight of like a given region. So like let's say an airline covers the Southwest United States. So like what is the average weight of someone living in the Southwest United States, and then compare that relative to like how much space that airline covered. How much space you had in your
I'm
seat.
sure there is zero correlation.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm thinking. But
I mean,
it would
they're
be an
just
interesting
standardized.
It'd be an interesting thing.
It's just like I don't know. I guess I could be flabbergasted, but I would imagine that like a 787 or a 747 around the world are all the same plane.
I saw this one proposition that was you would not like they would take away seats, and so it would be a standing airplane, and so you'd have like a backrest, but like basically so like right underneath, like in between your legs, like at the base of your crotch, there would be like a peg that like supported you, but otherwise you're just standing for the entire flight.
Yeah, you're talking about like for the short. I don't know that it was so much a peg as much as essentially like a bar stool.
The one I saw was literally
very uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, no, the one it was literally like a hook basically. you sit yourself on. It's padded, but
But I mean, to your point, as they try to normalize, like as they get like super jet airliners that can go from point A to point B within a reasonable amount of like distance at an excessive speed, that is like essentially the goal, is to just make it like a space bus that can go from New York to LA in a short amount of time. And so yeah, they try to just fit as many people on there. I have seen similar things to that.
I don't know how fast planes go on average, but I know like in the past, so we talked about this in one of my engineering classes, how like in the 50s or 60s, like passenger airlines used to be supersonic, but it would like the sonic booms they would create, like if it was passing over a neighborhood, it would sometimes just like shatter a window.
I did
so they had to change that.
I did a thing on I think the Concorde was one of them, I want to say. But it was all about supersonic jets. And like why we should bring them back, because screw Windows, and like we should never go back on technology just because it's but yeah, it could do a transatlantic flight, I'm pretty sure, in like 3 or 4 hours.
Well, also, I mean, so first off, my flight was going about 550 miles per hour, just based off like the inboard, the TV. But second off, you would assume that if that was like the only issue, that you would just like speed up once you hit water, just go slower above the US, and then once you hit the Pacific or Atlantic, just zoom.
Also, fun fact, so the way the airplanes worked, like when they were descending, like the cockpit could not see the runway, and so they designed what's called a droop snoot. And so the front of the plane, like mechanically can lower to like angle down in order for the pilots to be able to see the runway.
Yes. I was actually familiar with the droop snoot, but I wasn't familiar with the window shattering.
It's enough to make you gargle anesthesia.
The plane just
I had a
tickles
good
you.
way to bring the word in, and then I forgot because I went on the Mach 1 train. But I think we'd better push along here.
I thought we were just gonna do mini qualgorithm for the entire episode at this point.
Hey,
Well,
I mean, I'm down, but let me get this
sponsor.
bombastic quote in really fast. To know if something is true, You must determine if it is as true as things that are equally as true.
I mean, that is
Agreed. We do need a hypothetical, though, because what is a podcast without a hypothetical?
boring. That's what it is, Brent. Just absolutely dumb.
Try every other podcast out there. If you're not on hypotheticals, you need to, because it's the future.
Don't give the secret. Just profit from it, Daniel.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say we will be suing you though. If you, we need royalties and
We own hypothetical
yeah.
situations legally. Patent pending.
You hear of Gerdunken? You thought that was Einstein's word? I actually don't know if it was Einstein's word or not. It's ours. We made it.
You ever heard of the English language? That was us.
Can you imagine? What if you... All right, hypothetical. I invented a language, and you have to pay me a royalty every time you use a word from it, but I make sure that there are enough words that aren't in other languages in order to make sure people have to use it.
Once you guys hit it off the ground, you'll start selling books that are like bombastic hypotheticals, and just completely brand it. It's going to be phenomenal. Anyways, on to the hypothetical. Daniel, I don't want to hear it. On to the hypothetical.
Well, you know what we could do, though? Like, all that.
This
I just
sounds
wanna
like
get
a
this
second
in. Like, imagine
hypothetical
we did
that
that. We
isn't
sold
nearly
like.
as interesting.
Dude, but this is a qualgorithm. You know what? If I can't do my little qualgorithm thing now, we're either doing it after the hypothetical or next week. But I need to know if I got to write the note down.
Just write it down.
All right.
Anyways,
Keep in mind, it's related to what Mikkel said. If you're listening next week, to all future listeners who won't hear this, if you only listen to the next episode, I'm referencing now with my qualgorithm.
Time code 37 minutes and 10 seconds.
Ish.
anyways, hypothetically speaking, if life expectancy was 300 years and you could reasonably expect to live that long, what would you do differently? What would life look like?
Okay. Two questions. First one, most important, how did this happen? Why is everyone living to 300?
Because of genetics, Brent. Second question.
But who changed? Like, was it? Okay, whatever. You're not going with it.
No.
It's fine.
Shut down.
So when you say 300, like, does that mean 300 is the average? Do people live longer than 300? Is it everyone's 300, or how's that work?
300 is the average, but if you make it to 301, you just catch flames.
I thought you got to, like, maybe
Okay.
you get to reset.
So it's the average, and that means no one lives to 299. And dies.
I mean, okay, so like reasonable buffer. Let's say 75. I mean, what is it, like 76?
Well, it's more so
is
like, does
the-
it scale, right? Because, like,
right. So
the
right
average
now,
life expectancy is like 73, but people live to like 90 and whatnot.
yeah, right now you would expect like a 25% difference almost. So let's say I won't give you quite 25, but let's say like 250 to 350. Like 350 is the equivalent of the modern day 100, and 250 is like you've died young.
Okay, and does like your
Poor,
body scale?
poor Jimmy caught cancer at 249. That was tragic. He had so much longer to live.
What's that one? It's the one poem that, like, is it better to die like in your prime or to like live out your days into nothing? Never mind. Anyway, does like body scale with it? Like, do I still look like current? Like, when I turn 90, do I look like a 90-year-old does right now?
No. So yeah, you would age similarly over the extended period of time.
So this has a big effect on sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Because
prime
prime
sports.
is...
Prime sports is when you're 100.
Oh, so wait, so like you're not technically fully mature at 18 now?
Oh, that's an
Like,
interesting.
your body's not mature?
You don't go to school until you're like 70.
No. We'll say
Wait, no, that's not
We'll
right.
say
That is absolutely not right, but I still find it
we'll
funny.
say you
so
mature
we'll keep it.
over
Well,
the same
well,
period of time, but you just don't. Your body doesn't degrade as quickly.
Dude, okay, actually, people would be so much smarter because you know how much information you're either able to gather when you're in your like formative years. If it takes you that much longer to get through your formative years, you can like absorb like a
Well,
huge amount of knowledge.
But we did just say you age normally until 18, and then it just got really slow. So people aren't super smart.
My brain turned off because I was turning my cogs on what I was thinking.
That is an interesting point, though. That is like if your brain was developing at a youth speed for an extended period of time.
It'd be interesting to run into like people who are like, granted, minds degrade, but like people who are 50, like you ask them, it's like, so like X event that happened in your like 20s. They're like, I don't know, like I don't remember things. And so like at what point, like by the time you've reached 210, can you even remember what you were doing?
Well,
in your hundreds.
An interesting point to that too is that things like wars and diseases shorten average life expectancy. So you can either assume that essentially it was like a utopia for an extended period of time, not really utopia, but like relatively peaceful world, or really people are living to like 400 and 300 is dying early.
Well, you're the one that didn't give us how it happened. But population issues, we got some serious population issues. Like people living way too long, and there's not enough space. Too much stuff, not enough space. We need vacuum sealed houses.
You say
we need
that.
houses in a can.
Yeah. We need flex.
You say
sealed.
that, but I don't honestly know if that would be true. Simply because, I mean, right now, 30% of the world's population, or sorry, 2/3 of the world's population lives in less than 1/3 of the, like, geographical space. And you have places that are, like, so densely populated, like India. And the U.S. is, what, I think the third most populated country, but it's also one of the biggest countries. And so, like, the U.S. alone, I mean, you look at, like, a map of, like, where people live population-wise, and you could stuff people out west between California and Missouri.
But, like, infrastructure isn't there. And then also there, like, for example, there are plenty of, like, deserts that are uninhabited, but that, like, there are reasons some places are uninhabited is because they are, like, not advantageous to live there.
They're not advantageous, but they're livable.
'Cause, like,
and, I mean, also, you would assume infrastructure would be able to develop with a population.
The likely situation to me is, like, because there's already, like, some amount of research going into like, hey, would it be possible to colonize other, planets other than Earth? And I just think that would like accelerate that process because eventually it would start to become a problem just because of how infrastructure currently is. Like you could fit, if you took an average like American suburb, like you could fit more places of living. You could probably increase by like at least 33%, how many houses there are, but people have yards and properties and whatnot.
Yeah. An interesting
That's the other thing. It's like all the property on Earth is already owned except Antarctica.
An interesting point to what you're saying though, Daniel, that you didn't really say but is a similar or is a tangent idea, is that development as a whole is really stunted by the idea that before you can surpass someone else, you essentially need to absorb all the knowledge that they've already had. So like if the smartest scientists or whatever are living 300 years, then there's things that perhaps on a normal life scale they would have stopped at age 50, 60, or 70. Well, now they're like building on their knowledge and actually like, like maybe like cancer could actually be cured reasonably quicker because one person or an entire team of people living 300 something years are actually like building on their own research rather than having to research other things, like other people's research and learn about history and whatever to get to their point. that they're at. I don't know.
That-
That's interesting.
That's such an interesting idea too, because now it's like, does a PhD take 50 years to get? Because you need to like fully study up on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you could theoretically. I feel like this may have came up, like how no one truly masters a discipline. You master like subcategories of it. Like people actually master disciplines.
Oh, yeah. I think we talked about last week, not on the podcast, but we were mentioning that like the last person to truly, essentially to know everything about like their core subject was, I think, even before the Dark Ages. I don't know. It was a long time ago to where like essentially if you were going to be a master at math, you knew like everything about math. To where now you could be a master in one specific area. Like, you could be a master and know everything there is to know about geometry or,
Not
quantum
even
mechanics or whatever, but you don't know everything about your general field.
That is so, like, I think I am in I wouldn't say a unique position, but like just specifically like master school is like the epitome of that. Is the seeing like, dang, I thought I knew a thing or two, and it's like, man, you know literally nothing. Even the thing that like you are very specifically specializing in, that you have a master's degree in, you know nothing. Sit down, go home. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then even the professors too. It's crazy to see like it was a strange transition point to when you would ask the professor a question and they'd be like, I literally don't know. Like, this is something I have learned before, but I will need to look into it. I messed this up myself and I will need to sit down and like work on this problem for a decent amount of time before I can answer it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
All that being said, we've diverted much from the actual question into the world we're building, which I like. But I am curious what the actual answer to your question is, which is, how would you live your life differently with having 300 years versus perhaps like the planned course, if you can say that, of like your current life?
Building wealth is an interesting idea now. I know you tried to bring it back, but I'm ready to derail
No, but
it
you're
again.
right. Like, the disparity of, like, wealth would be so much more drastic.
Can you imagine, like, because imagine you're born with wealth and you, like, invest it when you're 18, and then by the time you're retiring age, which is, like, I don't know, 200, and so, like, you've had 200 years of interest being... I feel like interest rates would have to go down, maybe?
I mean, no, it would... But it would be like a very much like a... Is it like Blade Runner, where it's like the slums at the bottom and then there's like the otherworldly people at the top?
I mean, obviously. I think in every hypothetical there's some class disparity. I think the big thing though is like you take like Netflix for example, like their servers, like you gotta restructure your servers after so much time. They're not gonna hold up, and so you'd really need some technology that could hold the movie, the movies you want to watch, like in something you can own, because like you can build up a Netflix-esque collection over 200 years, and
right, and especially like especially the way Netflix policies are changing, like they're limiting like how many people you can have on an account and stuff like that. Like, and there are gonna be way more people, way more server needs, and between the people and the physical needs of storing all the data on the information, like we are gonna be running out of space for this kind of thing. So there needs to be an alternative to the internet.
I got it. Blockbuster will come back.
Oh, I hadn't even made that connection. No, okay, yeah, no, I see where you're going with this.
That's a given. I didn't assume we were going there. Imagine 150 more years of Martin Scorsese films before
I could not tell you a single film I know the name, but I could not tell you any of the films he's made.
Well, got Wolf of Wall Street.
I do not like Wolf of Wall Street.
Aviator.
I honestly don't care for Aviator either.
Okay, let me pull up Martin Scorsese films because this is a little shocking to me that someone who prides themselves on their movies.
I don't know.
You got
directors.
Goodfellas.
I like Goodfellas.
Taxi Driver,
Eh.
The Irishman,
Eh.
Shutter Island,
Good.
The Departed,
I really like
Gangs of
Departed.
New York.
Eh.
Hey, Shark Tale? Come
Okay,
on.
Shark Tale is fire. Shout out to Will Smith.
I maintain we've never talked about Shark Tale before on the podcast.
This is entirely untrue. Literally, episode 6, basic movie math. I don't know if that. I'm not 100% sure that's episode 6.
never happened. We were talking about Will Smith the whole episode, and all his movies. Shark Tale never came
It was
up.
episode 8. It absolutely did.
Nope, did not.
Did I hear you say that you don't care for The Departed?
No, I love The Departed.
Okay.
He said he didn't care for The Aviator.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the I don't know why the Aviator came to me first. I just knew that was one of them, but that's obviously it's on the Google.
Leo.
Google prioritizes it under Shark Tale, so obviously not a big deal.
Lots of Leo DiCaprio, as he's called in some circles.
And Robert De Niro too. I mean, that is a thing that like big directors like working with the same actors and vice versa.
Robert Doe Niro.
Or maybe, I mean, imagine
circles.
like on the other hand, maybe Martin Scorsese just calls it quit now, and he has 225 more years of retirement, just living life on
Honestly,
the beach playing bingo.
How much money do you think you would need to have saved up to live 200 years comfortably?
Well, if you use if you use the rule that you can use 4% of your account, so if you have an investment account, you have like $1 million. The safe withdrawal rate says that you can use 4% of that and theoretically never run out of money. So if you have $1 million, that means you can live on $40,000 a year. So, I mean, I don't know how many millions of dollars that would
How'd
mean
they come up with that number?
for the rest of your life.
Is that just based off interest rates?
It's based off Monte Carlo
guess.
simulations.
Like,
And basically, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't heard about it, but it's not something I can explain in podcast form very easily. All that to say, people
sorry, I thought you were a finance guy.
people have done simulations essentially with a ton of hypotheticals to see how much money you could be able to use. Now they're actually saying like closer to 2.8 or 3.2%. Is what it is. It's lower than what it used to be. But all that to say, theoretically, assuming the stock markets act in a similar way that they do now, if your income is less than the safe withdrawal rate based off your account, it could last you the rest of your life very easily.
So wait, this is income you're pulling from a savings account or from an investment account?
Investment.
Doesn't matter. But it assumes that the money's at risk. Like it assumes investment account. But you would need, if you had it in a savings account, you could not pull out as much money because an investment account assumes that it's making money over the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know. I get like 0.0001% interest on my savings account. So
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you had enough money,
I make more than that walking to my car on the street. But
walking your car? How much money do you make walking your car?
I'm sure I can find a couple quarters, which is probably more than your your bank is giving you every 3 months.
Oh, you don't know I'm literally the richest man on earth. I've got $19 trillion in there.
You've evaded taxes and the news outlets very well.
I am the taxes. I just found out about this thing that is the craziest idea that like I've seen in the ever, which is like, do you know about like in order for like national debt, minting $1 trillion coin?
What?
So basically, there's a special like provision. It was either like 2011 or 2001 or 1997. That like the Treasury is allowed to print like commemorative coins as long as they're made of platinum of any denomination. And so there was a proposition because like national debt ceiling basically is like the U.S. government's not allowed to go over so much debt. And if like Congress doesn't move to raise that, then like they have to default on loans, problems, blah, 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 blah. Sorry, we're a politics podcast now. But anyway, I just found it was the most interesting idea. There was a proposition that the Treasury mints a platinum coin worth $1 trillion, and they like basically pay it to themselves more or less. And so like that would lower the debt by $1 trillion, something. I don't entirely understand it, but I love.
There's many flaws to this, but a good point that you do raise is that a lot of the U.S.'s debt is actually owed to itself, to like enter to other departments within the U.S., who then own equal amounts of debt to the other department, and really could just probably cancel it out, but that would be probably too easy.
But $1 trillion coin. Can you imagine? Like, what if you were the guy who like got to hold on to it? Can you imagine? It's like, and there's like
you drop it down the sewer.
and I can just imagine, like, there's the movie like Blank Check where the guy like his bike gets run over and gets a blank check. Can you imagine? So like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or something like that happens. Someone drops it down the sewer, it goes down, and some kid walks up, picks it up, and it's like the U.S. government's not allowed to steal it from him. And he's like, that kid is the first trillionaire on Earth.
You're referring to the Finders Keepers clause.
Yes, exactly.
It
was also in 1997. It was the same year they passed the Finders Keepers clause. But that, oh my goodness. But like, can you imagine? Is like, who would you cash it out to? Can you imagine, or you go to a casino and it's like, I bet it on black, please.
China, dude. You just cash it out to China.
So new hypothetical. Would you bet your $1 trillion on black at a casino?
No, I would bet it all on a hand of blackjack.
Or if you put it on a single number, you could get $35 trillion.
What this sounds like is you wanted a second qualgorithm, and you just didn't want Daniel to have his. And now Daniel has to wait for next week while you slyly sneak this one in.
I just thought it was literally the most interesting thing I have ever read.
You know what's completely uninteresting is every icebreaker guide ever. Like, what's your favorite color? What do you think about before getting out of bed in the morning?
Daniel, is this your algorithm and you're trying to do it now?
Yes.
I knew it.
That's why the world needs the Bombastic Hypothetical book to save yourself from all these awkward situations where someone gives you an icebreaker card. Our book will save you from these situations.
Hypotheticals
mini ad
are
break. This is not
the
actual
superior
ad break.
icebreaker.
Yep.
Anyways, really what I was expecting of all this discussion was what you would do accordingly in your lives. Like, personally for me, I am like the type of person that can't, like, I'm not the type of person that is just going to do something forever and ever. But there are some people that would just probably like refine a skill just to its extremity, just like play basketball for infinity, or, just do research a specific topic. I don't know, but I feel like I would just like learn piano for 10 years, then learn language for 10 years, and then
can you imagine like resumes are now small binders that you like it's like can we see your resume?
Yeah.
And it's like it's just a binder of like 10 pages, and it's like, all right, for 10 years I was an engineer, for the next 10 years I worked with the Harlem Globetrotters. That's my answer, by the way. I joined the Harlem Globetrotters.
Brent, it looks like you're really I don't think we're going to choose you because it looks like you just hop around jobs too much. I mean, you've only been there 10 years at each of your last 5 jobs. And frankly, we're not doing any less than 20.
Yeah, the longest you've ever been in a job is 50 years, which, like, sorry, but we're just not willing to take that risk.
Obviously, you can't commit.
Yeah. That'd be hilarious.
Imagine, like the reason people like millennials and Gen Zers are climbing up the corporate ladder is essentially just because baby boomers are retiring or dying. And so, like, imagine a world where you're like, oh man, I can't wait to get my dream job in 150 years. I just need to put the sweat equity in it, and then it'll pay off.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta start at the bottom, lick a couple shoes, get your way and work your way up to the top. Sure, it takes 100, 200 years, but just you wait. I'll be at the top one day.
100 years of getting coffee, and they're finally noticing me.
Yeah, I spent 35 years getting Starbucks coffee for people, but now I'm the intern that doesn't get coffee.
It like totally changes the perspective of like certain books, like Across 5 Aprils or 100 Years of Solitude. It's just like it's a totally different idea. They're like, oh, 100 Years of Solitude, what, like a 30-year life? I mean, that's bad, but like
Yeah, so hypothetically, if this was a sudden change in genetics that Brent really wanted, and let's say you just went from like 75 years life expectancy straight to 300, it's like you're in prison with a life sentence. So you're in prison for 100 years, and then all of a sudden you're out halfway through your life because of an old sentence where the amount of years was actually too short for your new life.
Can you would jail sentencing scale? So like
no way.
Like
No way.
currently, like you get like I don't even know an average jail sentence for anything, but like you get like 60 years for murdering someone or something, and it's like, well, now you've got 180.
Like prison. I do feel like prison would have to. I thought you meant like county jail, but in the terms of prison, that would be interesting because to an extent, it's like, oh man, you didn't learn your lesson, and obviously 15 years isn't enough for you to learn your lesson because you can just keep terrorizing people for another 250 years. So we're going to make sure you're old and gray by the time you get out. We're not giving you less than 150. That'll teach them.
Oh my god. All right, prison overpopulation, new issue.
And we can't have
divorce rates are going to go up. Because how many marriages do you think people just stick out because they're like, like 5 years?
We only got like 10 left max. Dang.
Man, the sex just isn't what it was 200 years ago.
I feel like you could probably find some book about vampires and pull that line directly.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Twilight no longer interesting. What? Edward's only like 200 years old. Pfft. My grandpa's 250. Like,
it would be, yeah. I mean, it would be. You mentioned this earlier, Brent, but I'm just now thinking about it. But like, the amount of life events you would live through. That it's like, oh man.
Well, and so like 200 years ago from now, or 300 years ago from now is 1722. So you lived through like the start of like America.
Yeah.
You lived through like every single war.
Not just that. You lived through the no. When was the like industrial? Yeah, no, you lived through, like, industrialization.
You when you were born, like horses, horse and carriage was by far the most efficient way to travel, and like ships, like most of the time made it across the Atlantic Ocean.
Your parents talking to you about history is them coming over as pilgrims.
Like, wait.
I remember the witch
over
trials
on Ellis Island. My parents came over on the Mayflower.
Honestly, an interesting thing though is assuming like a natural degrading, but a normal maturity as far as your age goes. Theoretically, like you could have kids from the time you're 18 till the time you're like 250. And so we think now like, oh man, those parents were like 50 when they had their kids. They're so old. But now it's like, my brother is 200 years older than me, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
My nephew's 100 years older than me.
Like
because my parents took so long.
You have like a kid when you're like, not midlife crisis. Like let's say you have a kid and you're like 250 or something. It's like, I'm only going to see the first 50 years of my child's life.
Will they remember me?
Yeah. Can you imagine? It's like, yeah, my father passed away when I was 75. It was pretty tough. Like,
I had to raise my siblings.
Yeah. All right. Does anyone have any final thoughts? We're running out of time.
I think
Mikkel?
we're good.
I know you wanted it to never end, but unfortunately, all good things must, and also this podcast. So, thank you everyone for listening. Sorry we missed out on the third segment, but you'll get it eventually. And yeah,
Shout out to Brent's mom.
Shout out to
Will
Brent's
Smith.
mom.
You are still welcome on the podcast.
Absolutely still welcome. Will Smith,
Are we extending an invite to Chris Rock or?
Oh, we could have a double guest episode.
I might want to keep them separate though. Just but
We'll do Will Smith one week, Chris Rock the next. We'll have our people talk to
All
their
right.
people.
Exactly.
It'll work out. Yeah.
And also the views, we've been doing pretty decent on views, but we can always do better. So, tell a friend, tell your neighbor, write it on the chalkboard of your local elementary school. Our target demographic is third graders.
Take some provocative graffiti and paint over it.
Yeah,
With some joyful We Bombastic Few.
cover all the
just a link to our Spotify.
yeah. Well, so like
Make
cover
love,
all
not war.
the important bits with QR codes, and bada bing, bada boom. We'll blow up in no time. But
Just think, in 200 years, you could say you knew us when we were small.
Exactly. The only podcast that plans to be around for 300 years. Final thoughts. Mikkel, what do you think? Anything to say? To the people?
If I ever have the privilege of being tickled again, I will probably use words like "stop" and "I don't like this" before I use gargulesthesia to describe the feeling that
Tickling
I'm
is a
having.
privilege, not a right.
Yeah.
Never forget that.
All right, Daniel.
Well, shoot, I'm gonna have to come up with more. I thought shout out to Brent's mom and Will Smith is still welcome was my final thoughts.
Nope.
And that was like, shoot, I'm in a time loop. He just asked it again, and my first answer wasn't good enough.
Shout out to Will Smith's mom.
Yes. I have nothing. I need to fill the Lindsay role.
Yeah, I was gonna say someone's gotta have no thoughts. All right, and with that, you all have a bombastic week. We'll see you next time.